So here we are, and I'm Principal Caldas, and this meeting is consisting, I guess, and I'll ask everybody to introduce themselves in a moment after I hear from my vice principal, of some parents, some student council members and students, as well as some of the teachers here at this at the school. So Kelly's the vice principal here, and she knows a little bit more about the matter, so I'm going to have her summarize what's going on.
Principal Caldas, I again, like you said, I've gathered some parents, school board members, as well as students here today to talk about the controversy that seems to be happening in the classrooms currently regarding the wearing of a red ribbon on students' lapels, representing support towards people who are suffering from AIDS.
Okay.
There seems to be a lot of controversy whether people are supporting this issue or against the issue. And my concern specifically is this being a learning environment, we want to keep our students focused on the lesson plans. I'm not really sure personally which side I support.
Yeah, I guess that's why you called everybody together.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we could discuss this. We have teachers specifically, both for and against.
Okay, let's go around first and just introduce yourself and tell me what your position is very quickly. To my right is...
Hi, I'm Lily, and I am a faculty member at the school, and I'm in opposition of students wearing ribbons.
And Lily, what do you teach?
English.
Okay. And it's 7th and 8th graders, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
I am Alana, and I am an English teacher at the high school, I believe, and I support the wearing of the ribbons.
Okay, thank you. And I see some students as well.
I'm Elizabeth Trask. I'm a student council member, and I'm against the wearing of the red ribbons.
Okay.
I'm Ashley Lord, and I'm a student council member.
You're the president, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm for the red ribbons.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Marina, and I strongly support students who would like to wear red ribbons.
All right, and I have some parents here as well.
I'm Lena. I'm a parent. My daughter is a 8th grade student in the school.
Okay.
And I'm strongly support the right of exercising the First Amendment right of wearing.
Wearing ribbon. Okay.
Yes, I'm Norm Toppin, and I support the wearing of red ribbon.
Okay.
Ms. Danielle Thomason, my son Max is a sophomore, and I am against him being exposed to people wearing ribbons.
Okay. Can I hear from a couple of the teachers first as to, Kelly has told me that there may have been some incidents, or you're concerned about incidents in the classrooms? Lily?
Yeah, we are concerned about incidents in the classrooms. It's, wearing of red ribbons, I mean, it can be said to be a passive form of expression. However, it has caused an uproar in my class because some students don't understand the meaning of wearing the red ribbon. And I firmly believe that during school hours, students should be focused on, the academics that, are set forth for the day. But instead, they notice things such as other students wearing the red ribbons, and it causes a significant amount of controversy over it. So I believe that, students should not be wearing them during school hours.
Alana?
Well, I support the red ribbons. I think that knowledge is power. And what I think our main concern should be as school and as educators about the AIDS epidemic that is on the rise among young adults in America. And I think that if we just kind of talk about it with our students and explain to them, what these red ribbons mean, I think that will eliminate any of, the incident or the uproar, any of the controversy. Just because as soon as wearing it does not mean that he or she is infected with HIV or AIDS. And I do think that just because people don't want to talk about it because it's scary, it's ugly, it's not a good thing, I think that knowledge is power here, and ignoring it will not improve the issue. So I think that they should be allowed to wear the ribbons in support and in recognition of how to prevent AIDS, how to help people suffering with AIDS, different types of things that we can do.
Okay. Danielle, I seem to recall, that you're against the wearing of the ribbons?
Yes, I am against that.
You're
And-
also an attorney, right?
Yes, I am.
Maybe. So what is your position?
My position, going to this teacher that feels that the children should have an awareness of how to prevent AIDS and the message that's coming out from these ribbons, I don't feel that that is the school's place to be discussing with my son anything about preventing HIV, which would be through sexual contact, which would also discuss things that should be the rights of the parents to be addressing with their children.
Well, don't the students, and actually I'll ask the students this, and I'll come back to a couple more of the parents as well. Don't the students have a First Amendment right to freedom of expression that's not only codified in our general laws in Massachusetts, but also as a result of a Supreme Court case, right?
Correct.
Ashley?
There was a case where, there was a case with an armband, was it? Tinker? Yeah. Where the students were wearing a black armband to class, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said that as long as the school authorities can't reasonably foresee any substantial disruption or material interference with school activities, and there are no disturbances on the school premises, then the students should be allowed to wear them. And in fact, there weren't any, so.
Well, there has been in this English teacher's class, she said there's been an uproar and controversy within her classroom, which is causing a disruption to my child learning.
But in the case of the armbands, they said that the armbands encouraged discussion inside the classroom and outside, but that it wasn't offensive and there was no other reason for the banning of it. So I think that we should be allowed to continue to wear our red ribbons, just like the students in that school were allowed to continue to wear their armbands.
Well, I'm another parent, and I know something about the legal standard as well, and I understand that students do have some First Amendment rights. Tinker said students shouldn't shed their constitutional rights at the schoolhouse door. However, my child came home and actually witnessed an incident where one child who was wearing a red ribbon was actually called a fag by some other children in the classroom. And I think I would agree with teacher Lily, who said that there might be some incidents in the classroom that would cause disruption. And I mean, isn't that the standard? Isn't that what the school should be concerned about? Vice Principal Kelly?
And that's exactly my concern. Since this hasn't been settled yet, we have not discussed the red ribbons as a whole, as far as maybe assembly with the students to educate them. However, students are all coming from different backgrounds, different upbringings, and therefore they're coming in with preconceived notions about HIV, about AIDS, and the wearing of AIDS. And the suffering from AIDS, and where the original cause is. We discussed it a little bit in health class, but this is bringing in some real values from the home that is causing incidents. And I think maybe if we hear a little bit more detail as far as maybe some of the incidents that you have witnessed that.
There's been kids that have been called different names. Some kids, it creates a hostile learning environment, essentially, because the wearing of the ribbons, because it's tied to such a sensitive issue. When you look at the age of the kids, we're talking about 7th, 8th graders. They're 13, 14 years old, and like you mentioned, there hasn't been any discussion about AIDS, other than briefly.
Oh, well, excuse me, Teacher Lily, I'm in your class, and you taught me the Tinker case, and you taught me that in that case there were young kids walking out, they were walking out of class, doing demonstrations. They were wearing black armbands, And the U.S. Supreme Court held that they could wear those black armbands. So why I'm quietly wearing a red ribbon? What's wrong with that?
Because there have been incidences in our classroom after students have been wearing the ribbons, as opposed to in the case of the armbands, they were just passively expressing their views.
Kelly, you can recognize those.
Oh, I'm sorry, Elizabeth.
Well, as a student here, I have friends and peers that have been attacked because they've been wearing these red ribbons, and there's a lot of
Attack. Physically?
Physically and verbally in the hallways and in classrooms. They've been called faggots, and there's so much stigma attached to AIDS that they're afraid to go to school now. They want to stay home. And I think that the school needs to find some sort of balance between the First Amendment and keeping some sort of order in the school, because I'm having a tough time learning that in my teacher's class and Lily's class. I can't concentrate. I don't want to come to class. I can't get my work done, and then I feel kind of afraid to be friends with people that are wearing these red ribbons, because then everyone thinks that I'm homosexual too.
Okay.
And as I read in the Tinker case, it specifically says it's in the absence of any material facts of disruption. And it's appearing that there are disruptions throughout the school, not just in one particular class. Tinker involved a small group relative to the rest of the school. This seems to be pretty widespread.
But you know what, it seems today that the students, if you compare the students today in terms of their education about AIDS with the students back then, that I think were just blindly wearing the black armbands, at least the younger ones, who their parents were just sending to school and saying, put this on. So I can understand the students, the parents, the teachers that think this is a fundamental, right, that the school should allow them to do that. But at the same time, and I don't have the town's attorney here, but I'm concerned about the school's liability, what Elizabeth just brought up. Should there be some material disruption, should some incident occur, will the school then be liable?
Well, in Section 80,
Danielle?
in Section 83, it does mention that the school officials cannot abridge the rights,
Right.
unless there is
82, right?
safety. Well, this is Section 83.
Okay.
Unless that there are health safety issues, and I would think that if there's students that are being physically attacked, and the more that, especially after this meeting, I think that it's going to be a bigger issue now that the parents have gotten together with the school officials. It's going to be talked about more, and I wonder if the safety concerns would be a reason for the school to ban having those red ribbons.
Alina?
As a parent, I do have a daughter in the school, and for the first time here at this meeting, I'm hearing that it's been some interferences with the school, the activities in class scheduling. My daughter never reported it to me, and that would be my question, why for the first time we're hearing about that.
Do you think it should be the schools and teachers' responsibility to maintain, to respect your daughter's right to wear the red ribbon, and at the same time to make sure that she's safe in the classroom?
I totally agree with that, but I also, from what I heard from my daughter, she said that it just sparked some discussion in the classroom, which I think is very healthy to have a discussion. It does not interfere with the classroom, and again, it's the exercising of their First Amendment right.
It could also be a gender issue. She does have a daughter, and I do have a son. And I think that sometimes when you're saying the word fag is being thrown around more, and violence, that it might be, your daughter might not have reported anything because girls might not be as violent about the homosexuality as the boys are going to be in the school.
Okay.
Now, Alana, you do support it as a teacher. Have you, in your classroom, seen any controversy?
I really haven't seen too much of the incidents being spoken of. I'm just sitting here listening, and I think I'm really confused and really just to do with like, medical, blood transfusions, improper medical care. But I mean, drugs are a big issue, and I think that boys this age are trying to, kind of figure out, oh, they might be kind of, curious about it, they might be into maybe trying something, and we have to be careful of dirty needles. So I think there's multiple levels to this, and I just think that if we try to just have a school-wide thing, just explaining this, I think it would eliminate a lot of these incidents that I've heard about. I haven't seen any in my classroom. So I'm just very, very just confused as to what is going on here.
Do you think that the statute that Danielle just relied on, the freedom of expression statute for students in public schools in Massachusetts, is it an absolute sort of thing?
I don't think it's absolute.
Okay. So again, I keep coming back to the possible disruption disorder standard, and that's what's concerning me. Kelly, what do you think?
Yes. I agree. I also, after hearing, Alana speak versus Lily, could there be an issue amongst the teachers where the teachers are presenting it in the classroom a little bit differently and talking about it, where there are disruptions, only in certain classrooms versus others? But the physical violence, the offensive language that people are using.
Well, you know what I was just thinking about, and I don't know if you all had, we've looked at and mentioned both the Supreme Court, which is the law of the land, the Tinker case, statute in our jurisdiction again, but there is a Massachusetts case, the Pyle case, where the SJC, the Supreme Judicial Court, the highest court of Massachusetts, held that actually students can even wear vulgar T-shirts, right? As long as there's no disruption and disorder. So that kind of makes me think that maybe the red ribbon is in fact okay. Yeah.
The English teacher is discussing, talking to my child about the use of dirty needles.
I never said that though.
Well, you said that there should be.
You
said there should be a school-wide
Do
informational
you not think that your son
discussion.
should be?
I think that should be something I should discuss with my child, and I don't.
discussed with him?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think that my child should be getting that. And I think that's disrupting the school day also, that we have to now pull our children into an assembly, sit them down and talk to them about ways that you can get AIDS and and whether it's just being gay or from medical procedures. I don't think that that's the school's position to take with my child, and I think that's taking away from his learning he's supposed to be having, so that some students can express themselves by wearing a red ribbon.
So the school shouldn't be intervening in family.
But
They
also,
should.
if the students are discussing that in the cafeteria or in the halls of school cannot police what the children are discussing there. So if it does not disrupt the school activities during the class, students should be allowed to discuss that.
Who else, Marina?
Yes, I think we should be allowed to wear those red ribbons because it gives us an opportunity to be engaged in very positive activities and learn more about healthy lifestyles. And this is the right time to do so during our formative years. So those healthy lifestyle habits we can take into our adult years. And we come to school not only learn and acquire knowledge, but actually learn about values and just, form ourselves as individuals and as citizens of this country. And that's important for us to take a stand.
You brought, I think it was Ashley that first brought up the Tinker case and likening the wearing of the black armbands to the red ribbon. What about the Morse v. Frederick case, with the child that had the Bongs for Jesus ban on?
I love that picture.
How would you compare that? I mean, does that sort of erode at all what the Tinker holding in terms of what the school can and can't do when a student is crying First Amendment? You don't have to answer. Anybody can answer that.
It's enough.
I think that went along too with the illegal drugs, which the student was promoting. And if that's a discussion about dirty needles, then it also goes along the lines of that's what other children could be discussing and bringing up, whether it's on a banner or it's on a ribbon. If drugs is the issue, I don't think it should be discussed within the school, and the schools have the right to stop that discussion.
Why don't we wrap this up, Kelly? Maybe have everybody do any final words from anyone?
Again, I'm still in opposition to students wearing the ribbon because it has created disturbances in particular classrooms, maybe not every classroom, but nonetheless, there are incidences that have occurred in which students have been attacked, verbally and physically. I think that it creates a hostile learning environment. I think that it is, a very sensitive and unpleasant subject that isn't appropriate for the age of my students and other students at the school.
Okay, thank you.
I just think that we need to think about the world that we want our kids to grow up in. I know that I want my kids to grow up in a world that's healthy, where AIDS doesn't exist. And I think part of that is educating all of our students on how to prevent the spread of AIDS. And I think that's what we should do. We should allow them to wear these ribbons as a show of solidarity.
Students?
I still don't feel like it's the right time at this school to having to be able to have students wear these red ribbons when most of my peers are quite immature and violence has been brought out because of the ribbons, and I don't want to see my peers and possibly myself be involved in a verbal or physical attack because of this.
Okay, thank you.
I think that we should still be allowed to wear the red ribbons. We're not promoting anything illegal, and all we're trying to do is show our support for a specific group of people. And just because we may not be allowed to wear the red armbands doesn't mean that we, won't be allowed to talk about it in the hallway. So I don't think that the red ribbon is the real issue in these schools.
We still talk about AIDS with our peers, and I think it's important for us to wear those red ribbons. By wearing, we support healthy lifestyles, and that's critically important during formative years.
I don't think that my child should have to be confronted with the AIDS issue while he's in his English class. I think that anybody wants to support it, they should support it on their own time and their own privacy, and I don't think that the school should be educating my child about the awareness of AIDS. I think that's a job for the parents.
Okay.
I would like to agree with some of the things that Alana said, in that the notion of some kind of informational assembly. I believe that the school board and the curriculum set up in the schools allows for the ability to take into consideration special topics, and by disseminating information from the school to the students as a body is a way to level the playing field as far as ignorance is concerned. And so many of the thoughts and impressions that kids come to school with are gained by listening to their parents. So it just seems to me that there's a lot of ignorance that goes into associating the red ribbon with just homosexual activity. We forget about Ryan White 20 years ago, how Elton John befriended him, and he was the kid who ultimately died from the transfusion. So I think that education comes in different forms, and I think that we have an obligation, or the schools have an obligation to prepare the students to go out into the world with better and more clearly formed ideas.
Thank you. Alina?
I don't think the school can interfere with my child's exercising his First Amendment rights unless it substantially materially interferes with the classroom work. And I didn't hear at this meeting any particular facts that it was this school activity was materially and substantially interfered with.
Okay, thank you. Does my vice principal have any recommendations?
Yes. After hearing everyone's opinions and working in the school system as a vice principal for many years, the environment in the schools is very different now than it was when we were at that age in the school system. Drug education is beginning now at the elementary school level, which is unfortunately a necessity. We do see drugs in the middle school. Unfortunately, we've disciplined, we've done everything that we can do. So the drug education is already in process. So talking about, dirty needles and the such to such a young age group of students isn't quite like how we may have viewed it in the past. I think it's essential. We already are having in health class conversations, educational conversations, not value judgments or morals, but purely informational, educational, health classes talking about sex education with our students. Unfortunately, again, that is necessary for the age group that we're talking. In addition, bullying has become a major crisis in the school systems. And when I hear that students are being referred to as fag, now we're talking about bullying.
Right.
And that is a grave concern. So my recommendation at this point would be to have a general assembly to discuss what is happening now, why people are wearing red ribbons, what they symbolize, and talk about it in health class, to talk about that, and also talk about the bullying and what the consequences would be if that were to happen.
Okay, thank you. Okay, after the record, and you can not assume your roles now, and let's discuss, what do you think the school should do in a situation like this?
I really do have a 15-year-old sophomore in school. The last one, the last one. And he's not a type of kid that would pick either side, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that I would let my child handle the situation probably. If they wanted to wear the red ribbon, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But if the school said they couldn't, I probably would think the school would know why. Some parents might want to go and push it and see why. I think that it tends to be when you do things like meetings and you do things like make it an issue, then the kids make it more of an issue. I think you just let them wear the ribbons and, don't, create it as being a big situation that the school should allow them to. But then I read the case about those T-shirts with that that's what happens. You get these fanatical parents. The kids wearing the T-shirts, what are those, something knitted shirts. It seemed like they were really just antagonizing the school, trying to every day just force the kids to be in the teacher's face with this. So I think that maybe they should have, isn't there an AIDS awareness month? Maybe that's when they should be allowed to wear the red ribbons and then designated to a certain time and pink for, I think, February or, whatever the months. I know they're all certain. October, I think, is breast cancer. So I think the kids should be allowed to express themselves. I think it should be limited.
Les, you want me?
When you think about it, it's like, we're pretty, like say sports, we're into our teams, but if you're not from here, then you're a Yankees fan. So when you think about
all the different symbols,
whatever you
right?
want, or however you want to express yourself, whether it's with a red ribbon or it's with a Chicago Cubs logo or something. All of it. Where do you draw the line? If it's a silent bit of communication, like the black armband, then it should be allowed
But let me just interrupt you, because the Bondheads for Jesus was also silent, it was a banner, right?
Well, yeah, yeah.
I think it's the message too, isn't it really what
Yeah.
the message is trying to show?
There's words.
Elizabeth?
So I have an example too that I wanted to bring up is, I don't know if anyone's seen it, but there's these bracelets that say "I love boobs" on them, and they're for
Yeah.
the breast cancer society, or to raise money for breast cancer. And this little boy, I don't know him, but I read an article somewhere about it. I don't know where it is, but
Worked to school?
he worked at school,
Yep.
and his mom had breast cancer, and the principal told him he needed to turn it inside out. And he said, "Well, my mom has breast cancer." And then the mom went forward and talked to the principal and said, "I really do have breast cancer, and my son's just wearing this because he's supporting me." So but then at the same time, it's like the message that sends to everyone is provocative, but then it's like he has a legitimate reason to want to wear that. His mom has breast cancer. But I feel like it's different, like if you just have a red ribbon on, and then if you have a shirt on that says, I support AIDS, or I support people with AIDS, that's a different message that you're showing off. One message is just a color of a ribbon, the other message is all these words. Like, it's going to be taken a lot differently.
What's the school's, Kelly?
Actually,
Go ahead.
I'm
No,
sorry.
that's okay.
Oh, I was like, oh, that's I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go instead, actually. I'm just gonna go. I got excited. But my mom's school actually had a big thing with those bracelets, because they also like t-shirts and all this other stuff, and she happens to be like an English teacher, and we have like all
What grade?
8th grade.
8th grade.
So they have like, this comes up a lot in her school, that like all the kids start to
Oh,
do
yeah.
something, and then
Oh,
like
yeah.
people like go crazy, and like parents come in, and it's like chaos.
Oh, yeah.
But so they actually banned anything with that slogan on it from her school. And if a kid shows up like wearing it, they say take it off.
Do you mean the
turn
I
it
Love
inside
Boobs
out.
one?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you talking about the I Love
Yeah.
Boobs? Oh, I
Yeah,
didn't
and
remember.
yeah, and it's like it's really cute because it just like show, or like someone could like feel like your boobs or like boobies, and it has like stuff like that. But they like ban them, and if the kid doesn't like turn it inside out, take it off, and they get sent home for the day, and they continually get sent home until they like don't do it anymore. But it's like kind of different because like AIDS, I can see where it's kind of like controversial, like how people like it's kind of scary and it's crazy. But I mean, breast cancer, everybody wants to support breast cancer.
But at the same time, the message is kind of inappropriate.
Right.
But is it the message that's the issue with the boobs? It's the message.
How it's delivered.
It's
Right.
the wording.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the school's
That's kind of
concern?
cute, though.
Yeah,
It's kind of
and-
cute.
And think of what's
Yeah.
the standard? The standard is both in Tinker and in 71.
Yeah, interference with the schools.
Disruption or disorder, disruption or disorder.
So is the school wrong here where they're telling these kids they have to turn their armbands?
Disruption or disorder.
And there isn't any.
You know?
But the schools intimidate the
Yeah.
parents.
That's why I brought up that, have you guys make up facts, like that there was, kids were disturbing your lesson plan. So the symbolism itself, there's nothing wrong with it, right? But you're trying to teach Shakespeare, right? And, they want to talk about AIDS, which there's nothing wrong to talk about AIDS, but if it's interfering with what you want to do as an English teacher or as a math teacher or whatever, and you're bringing it to the administration's, the administration has a responsibility here to all of these students in the school, that they should be learning English, that they should be learning math. And if the, discussion becomes, and if it doesn't necessarily, Elizabeth made up facts about a physical altercation, but does it necessarily have to be something that amounts to that? Maybe not. So it's that balancing. Sure, the students have rights, but, does it interfere with the orderly educational mission, et cetera? Kelly, you wanted to say something?
Well, I was going to say that when my daughter was in high school, they used to wear these elastic bands, all the different colored, like the jelly band things. And it was completely innocent, and they didn't say, there wasn't anything on it. It was just, but they were all different colors. And the school found out that they were supposedly messages that the students knew, and the girls would be wearing them as far
Oh, I remember
as
those.
far as how far they would go sexually with.
Oh, you're kidding. My daughter was a nerd in high school. She was
Well,
in the honors
thankfully,
class. She
my
did.
daughter didn't wear them. But that was, and they were going to ban the wearing, and all
It's
it
like
was.
traffic
It was
light.
like, it was. Yeah, it was like
Color
a
meant something different.
Oh my God.
You know, in the school.
I'm an
they were-
orange
they
light.
were terrified.
I'm an orange light, come on, but come on
Let's go.
slowly.
It was crazy.
Stop
Wow.
before you
But
go.
sometimes students take something that's purely innocent
That's right.
and they make it their own message.
That's right.
And then the school finds out once
And
it.
then I
They're always the last.
Okay, let's do the next one. So let me see, we're now debating about this article. So let's suppose that, again, Alana and Lily, yeah, you're still English teachers, so you're advisors to the school, the newspaper that the students are working on. So they come to you after school, and, you know, one of the students wants to put this article in the school paper.
Could I ask a
Okay.
question?
And-
I already asked you this. Was this a true article? Was it
Yes,
fictional?
it was. At the time, we were working on a bunch of different hate group websites, and it came from one of those
Okay.
websites.
So it's all factual.
But Hallie Wright is a made-up name. So, which one of you want to be Hallie Wright? One of the students. Elizabeth, want to be Hallie Wright?
To be
Hallie Wright, you wrote
Okay.
this, all right, and so you wanted to be
That's
in
fine.
the paper, and Alana doesn't want it in the paper, Lily does, all right? Yes? Okay, so you'd be Hallie Wright. Ashley, you agree with Holly, Marina, you don't, okay? And you could, your parents again, so let's go just, in line with, you know, Alina, Marina's parent, Norman, Ashley's, Danielle, Elizabeth's. You've got their roles, Elizabeth is Hallie.
first. Oh, she wrote it.
She's Hallie, she wrote it.
Okay.
Ashley agrees with her, Marina doesn't, okay? All right, and you're the parents.
As your child, I was supposed to agree, right?
And
I
Kelly,
disagree
you
with
still-
you.
I would, and I would agree.
And actually,
It
Kelly,
wasn't my choice.
why don't
I
you
would
instead
agree.
be town council,
Okay.
all right? That way you can get into more of the legal, the cases that would support or not support this, because you're concerned about liability and whatnot, all right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, here we are again. Another problem in my school. It's not bad enough, I'm going crazy with these bullying plans. But, now, I see this article that Ms. Wright is wanting to publish in the paper, in the school newspaper, the after school. And I know that Lily and Alana, you're both advisors to the paper. So why don't I hear your views first? Either one of you can start.
Alright, I don't think that this article should be ran in school paper. I think that it will cause a lot of racism among our students. We have about a 50-50% for race here. And I just think that it will cause a lot of race issues in our school, and the last thing we need is more violence after our AIDS ribbon issue.
Okay. Lily?
I think that, students have a right to know the things that are going around in the world. So I think that, there's really nothing wrong with this article, because I feel that they would probably find out one way or the other. If it's not published here, it'd probably be published elsewhere.
Okay. Oh, Ms. Wright, let's hear from you.
Well, I wrote this article to inform other students of issues that are affecting us and people close to our age. And also because I want teachers and faculty members to read this article so that they know that these issues are real and live issues affecting us as students. The issue of pregnancy being one big issue, and also the issue of students whose parents are getting divorces being another issue. And I think that I have the First Amendment right and freedom of expression to articulate this in an intelligent manner, and I think that it should be published. None of the material in my articles was offensive, it's all fact. And I think that the school is violating my First Amendment right by deleting my articles from the newspaper.
Okay.
I
Ashley?
agree. I think that the school is violating a First Amendment right by taking out parts of the article that they don't want people to see. I think that they're trying to censor what the students see without any real reason to do so.
Maria?
I totally disagree. I think this article is very offensive and it hurts other people's feelings, and if there is a crime occurred somewhere, we shouldn't discuss the race of the people who committed that crime, because it only escalates conflicts, and at school we do have many conflicts in addition to this one. It just brings another cause for us to fight, and that's really disruptive to the educational process at school, so it should be banned.
Now, Danielle, whose mother?
I'm the woman that wrote this wonderful article.
Okay. All right.
Ally?
Yeah.
And I think that she should be allowed to, and if you look at the decision that came down in Hazelwood, one of the reasons that the court supported the censorship of the school was based on the fact that they were students that were within the building, and that it was promoting some type of inappropriate and violating their privacy rights. The article that my daughter has written is completely something that the students could read in another newspaper. It's not violating anybody within the school's privacy rights, and she should be allowed to express her opinion even though it's not within the school's opinion.
Norman?
I think that, I support Ashley in her support of Hallie's writing of this. I mean, this is a true story. We're at school, the kids are at school to learn, and I don't know that there's, maybe when kids are really young, you sugarcoat things or keep them from some of the more harsh realities of life, but I think that to not allow this to be published is not in the best interest of the students.
Okay. Alina?
I think the issue here is different. It's not whether or not Kelly had a right to express herself the way she did. She definitely does have First Amendment right, freedom of speech. The issues here is whether or not the school-sponsored, published newspaper was supposed to dissociate itself from this particular way of expression of an opinion. And I wanted to quote the case which
The Hazelwood case?
yeah,
Go ahead.
says exactly that. A school must also retain the authority to refuse to sponsor student speech that might reasonably be perceived to advocate or associate the school with any position other than neutrality on matters of political controversy. And since this is the question of political controversy, schools should take a neutral position and should not publish that article.
So let me just reiterate some of the things that Alina said, and I'll ask for people's opinions on that as well. It seems that the school newspaper in our situation is very similar to the school in Hazelwood. So regardless of Hallie's right to say whatever she wants in an article of her own, can the school censor or delete that because the newspaper is put out as, I realize it's an after-school thing and it's put together by students, but it's with the help of faculty. Kelly, what you were nodding.
The Hazelwood case referred to by both Danielle and Alina, they are grasping at individual pieces of it. You know, Danielle referred, stating that, you know, privacy issues is, as in the Hazelwood case where it was talking about pregnant students, individual students who could be identified by the facts, was the issue there. Although that was true, that was the reason the principal decided to take those articles out of the paper. What the Supreme Court really held was that a school is not necessarily considered a public forum as far as freedom of speech, you know, First Amendment rights for the students. The reason for that is it is a school-sponsored activity. Students are, you know, although this is a voluntary program that students join, there is instruction on it. We have teacher instruction. Money, resources, financial resources come from the school. So therefore, the principal can use reasonable, make reasonable decisions based on what can and can't go into the newspaper.
Would this, in terms of the material in that article, is it similar to the Ginsburg, the Ginsburg case? Could it be in matter harmful to minors, as in Ginsburg? Could in other words, the content of what Hallie is talking about, could the school take the position? I mean, I realize that the issue is that perhaps this newspaper is sponsored, but then we need to look at, in order to make determination to delete it or not publish it, we're looking at the content, right? So I heard from Danielle that, and I was agreeing with her a little bit. I heard from Danielle that in Hazelwood, it was about certain students, whereas what Hallie's intended to publish is, you know, not about students in the school. But then again, I'm wondering, is it like in Ginsburg that the, you know, the matter that she talks about, is it matter harmful to minors? You guys didn't read Ginsburg? I'm sorry.
I don't know why was that a sign? I just don't know.
Maybe I didn't give it to you. I'm sorry, I don't think I gave it to you.
You could tell us what it was about.
Okay.
Now I'm interested.
Ginsburg was a U.S. Supreme Court case, the variable of obscenity standard, where, I mean, it was back in a very old case, because it talked about these girly magazines that were, you know, we don't call them girly magazines now. They were sold in a little newsstand in New York. And the, you know, the issue was that an adult could look at these magazines and it wouldn't be obscene for an adult. But the U.S. Supreme Court held that in terms of protecting children, that it was wrong for that newsstand to sell to minors, because it's matter that's harmful to minors. We actually have a Massachusetts statute, and I don't know, I may or may not have given you, I don't think I did, so don't worry about the statute itself, but there's a statute that talks about matter that's harmful to minors. It appeals to the, and I'll spell it, the word prurient, P-R-U-R-E-N-T, something like that, prurient. Have you ever heard that word before? Yes. Prurient interest of children. So, oh, you've heard it in common law, okay. So that's the notion here, that the article that Hallie Wright is proposing, does the school have the right to not publish it because the matter that's in it is matter, quote, matter harmful to minors?
Did you feel though that in the Hazelwood case that the Supreme Court was saying that with this situation, and I know it goes beyond, but with this situation, because of the privacy rights, because of the students, and because of what the message was promoting,
right,
which was drugs and pregnancy, right, and things like that, that if they had something like this that had been published in little bits of papers, or the children could see in the news when they watched it with their parents, would the Supreme Court, if this had been the pages that was deleted, would they have ruled or held, do you think, the same way?
Or today, how about today?
Right.
you know, what
I
the
don't see how they
decision-
would say that this is inappropriate. I mean, yes, it's very.
Because we are talking about, you know, freedom of expression isn't necessarily always the most popular viewpoint. So the whole idea, you know, the marketplace of ideas that children should be growing up, you know, hearing all kinds of different things.
Are they
But is
mature
this
enough?
thing
Are they mature
too,
enough?
right, are they mature enough? Is this thing too harmful at this stage? And combine that with the fact that perhaps this is school-sponsored as well.
Well, and although it doesn't, you know, go towards specific students, it certainly goes towards a specific race, which are represented in the school. So there would be students that would find it.
Now, I did give you
personally
PICO, right? The PICO case? How about that case? The school can't censure just because of the dislike of the ideas. The point that I just made before about the marketplace, you know. So just because Holly's viewpoint may not be the majority, you know, doesn't she have the right to publish that viewpoint? The article will appear in her name. It isn't part of like the journalism class like in Hazelwood, certainly, yeah, I mean, it's an after-school thing, but you brought up, Kelly, before, that it's still school resources, the teachers are staying after school to help out. I don't think there's an answer.
Is there anything? But do you feel that PICO might be more supportive? I mean, obviously Hazelwood, I see her point, that's definitely, you could strongly argue Hazelwood against this. Do you think that PICO more, because it's official, because of the suppression that was done and it was
What fact would you
down?
need, what would the answer really depend on in this
The
hypothetical?
motives.
The what?
The motives probably of why it's being suppressed.
What other facts do you need, or what facts would there be in favor of deletion? In favor of deletion, non-publication, Rena?
I don't know, it says here in the Hazelwood case that the majority decrees that we must afford educators authority to shield high school students from exposure to potentially sensitive topics. And if this topic is sensitive, and we know that the huge percentage are African Americans in school, and that can become a sensitive topic, then it should be done.
Elizabeth?
Also, if there's no value to the writing, there's no artistic or literary or
Okay.
educational
Mhm.
purpose behind the writing, then the school should be able to
The
censor.
school. The school, what is it about the school that we need to know?
Wasn't it also between Tinker and Hazelwood, did the Supreme Court say something about the difference between tolerating something and promoting something?
Okay, so what does that mean? Difference between tolerating Hallie Wright's article or promoting Hallie Wright's article? In what way would the school be promoting Hallie Wright's
By
article?
publishing it.
By who publishing it?
By the
school
school
paper.
paper.
Yeah, so it depends what this school paper is, right? If it's just a little bulletin that, you know, students are putting together after school, not really school sponsored, not really school controlled, you know, maybe they're staying after and their favorite teacher happens to be around, you know, Alina?
But I also see the difference between this case and the PICO case is that in the first case, the school, the controversy is about to allow something to be published in a school-sponsored paper. In the PICO case, it's something to take out that was already there. The books were already in the school library. So to take them out of school library, it's much more difficult task than just to
True.
allow
Mhm.
an article to be published in the paper.
Okay. All right.
Just, just for anybody who's curious, some of the books that,
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
of-
what were some of the books?
Slaughterhouse-Five,
I love that book.
The Naked Ape, Black Boy, Richard Wright, Soul on Ice, Eldridge Cleaver, some other lesser knowns. Well, here's one that I've never heard about, but it's Best Short Stories of Negro Writers, edited by Langston Hughes. Well, why would they, it's hard to understand, but.
And the case itself is not very old, 1982. And a big controversy over these particular books. So Hallie, I don't know. Depends what control the paper has, and it depends on how the school perceives your message as well, if the school has control, so. Now suppose, let's go to Randall Roberts, way different, because up until now, it's just been the First Amendment, freedom of expression rights. But now we're looking at what sort of rights a student has relative to school discipline. All right? Relative to school discipline. So, Randall Roberts. So suppose that, okay. I'll tell you, it's very easy. The free speech, so Randall Roberts is a student, and he wants to run for student council president. And so in essence, he gets up on the stage, school assembly, and he says, you know, these are my views, and he pretty much says what Hallie Wright has in her article, okay? So now, Vice Principal Kelly again.
Was that sexually motivated too, though, I thought? Or was that sexually inappropriate?
No, he's giving the, you're thinking of the actual case, Gus v. Lopez, which you're gonna apply.
Oh, okay.
But Randall Roberts is your hypothetical.
Oh.
A kid who's running for president, student president, he uses that free speech article that Hallie Wright wrote. He says it as his speech.
So
Okay?
that's his platform.
Yeah,
for
that's his platform, okay? Vice principal gets him to the office. And now the question is, what, if any, disciplinary action should be taken against him? So my first question, and you're not playing really roles now, we're just gonna talk about what disciplinary action is available. First of all, does he even have the right, the freedom to express these views to the student body? So we could talk very briefly about his freedom of speech, but I'm more concerned about the discipline piece of it.
Well, it's not his work to begin with. In a sense, if he's not citing this work, then it's plagiarism for him.
Well, forget that. Just assume that that's, you know, his platform is, he agrees with these views and blah, 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 and, you know, and if he's, you know, elected, he'd be doing similar things and writing similar things and whatnot. So does, by the way, so he gets up at a school assembly, you know, running for, you know, student council, various students, saying speeches as well. So is this a school-sponsored event, and does that even matter in terms of his right to say this?
He should be, I mean, about saying this speech and getting up there and putting his views, I guess it depends. Well, I mean, they get up there and they say whatever they want. It's one of these, they give the children the forum to get up there and to, you know, we're gonna do pizza every day of the week, and
Right.
that's something I promise as a student council. So I think that you can't, if you're going to give them that space, you're gonna give them, open it up for them to speak to the students in that forum, and you've let other students do it prior. I don't think they can sit there and limit what their message is going to be.
You don't think that, who say that?
I don't think the school should be allowed, well, I guess it's back and forth. I don't think I want my children sitting there going and having somebody get up there and, well, I don't know, shove their views about abortion down their throat, you know, and we're gonna, you know, anybody that gets an abortion, we're gonna try to fight them coming to the schools. I just don't think that, that's what I want to hear, but usually these things are also voluntary, so the kids don't have to go to them.
Okay.
So I think if the kids are choosing to go and want to hear what they said, this kid, if he's gonna
Would
get
it
there
be
and say-
different if he just, you know, handed out flyers or,
They do that, they
didn't do-
hand
yeah.
out candy and they
Right.
hand out ribbons and pins and buttons and, you know, and I just,
Well, would the
you have
school
to
be
ban
more
all of it, I think.
concerned with him in the assembly, you know, giving a speech like this
Probably.
versus him handing out a flyer that
You can throw the flyer away.
promoted, you know, any kind of hate?
by it being, you know, by it being a speech and assembly, the school's providing the forum essentially.
Mhm.
Although, you know, students aren't required to attend, just allowing that opportunity is, the school is giving a little bit of support.
Suppose in the middle of the speech, you know, you're sitting there as vice principal, some of the teachers, and you feel that whatever the student is really saying objectionable stuff. Do you go up and stop him? Do you stop him?
If the school hasn't set a guideline, though.
Right.
You know, the school should have a
There should
guideline
be some sort of
that they give to them, so I would think if they
Well,
haven't done
is
that.
it, you know, every school has, and we'll get into this much more later on with some of the
Policies.
other, you know, the policies and procedures, the manual, you know, the handbook that both the student and the parent signs at the
But a
beginning
kid's
of the
supposed
year.
to remember
Is it-
every little, for example, if I can, for 1 second, my son got suspended for 3 days in house suspension. He brought a jump drive with a schematic, he's in an engineering program, into the school, put it into the computer, popped up the schematic, printed it off, got 3 days in house suspension. I didn't even get notified about the in-house suspension until after he had served it.
Okay, hold that thought about the notice, the due process rights
Would
that
the-
he gets.
But to your
so-
point
but,
of the,
yeah.
right, to your point of, it was in the handbook that they
Uh-huh.
weren't allowed to bring outside computer
Outside.
components.
Yeah.
Well, do you think, you
Right.
know, the first day of class where they give you this much stuff
Exactly.
that these teenagers are reading it?
Yeah.
But they relied on that.
So you're likening it to, you know, Randall Roberts is thinking, I can say whatever I want, I'm running for student council, I've got a lot of people behind me that agree with me or whatnot. It's my right to say this, right?
And as long as he's not saying something that's illegal, it should be allowed.
Must be Frederick, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's move to the next step, because I'm looking at the time too, and okay, so suppose that discipline really was gonna be an issue, all right? So, and this will answer your question or, bring up what you just mentioned about your son. So he's called to the principal's office because he's violated a school rule, right? So let's talk about what sort of discipline should he get and what kind of due process rights does he have? And compare that to the golf case that we just did. Suppose, Kelly, you sort of had it with this kid, that before today, he's had a couple detentions and he's been, he sometimes obstructs or disrupts classes for different reasons. Never been suspended or expelled before, all right? So suppose you want him suspended, okay? What should the process be and what rights does he have relative to that?
Well, I would say that the parents would need to be called.
When?
When he was brought to the office.
When he was brought to the office, called and told what?
He told,
In other words, suppose that you've decided with me, vice
Okay.
principal and principal, we're gonna suspend him, all right?
okay.
So how do we tell him and what rights does he and his parents have?
I would think that we would tell him, that based on what he said and did, we are going to suspend him. Call his parents and give his parents as well as him an opportunity to come in and.
Prior to suspension? Prior to
Well,
suspension?
I think you should, no, prior to having to serve the suspension, I think the parents should be notified.
I'm not talking about okay.
Oh, sorry.
I think it could be, he could be
You're talking about-
suspended and then.
Think about Galt, for example.
Yeah.
Galt, Jerry Galt, liberty right, fundamental right, okay? Before he gets the punishment, he has the right to a hearing. So he has the right to a hearing before. What kind of right to be heard does Randall Robert have? It's not the same as Jerry Galt, and tell me why it's not. Elizabeth?
Well, it's not dealing with any sort of, and they're not really,
I don't think it-
it's only the liberty that's lost is the liberty to go to school, not the liberty to.
And do you have a right to go to
Have a right to-
school? In
No.
what case was
Yes,
that?
to some extent, yes.
I think I gave you a mass case, but there's also, I didn't give you the federal case, which is Rodriguez San Antonio district, the case of Doe v. Worcester talks about, the girl with the lipstick case that said, "Oh, wait a minute, you shouldn't have taken me out of school. I have a right to go to school." As you see, no, you don't have
You
a
have a
fundamental right.
especially when you're with
Okay.
violation.
So because of that, Randall Roberts does not have the same rights that Jerry Gall has. He's got due process rights. Remember, is process due? Yes, because he does have some right to go to school to be educated. Of course he does. But it's not fundamental. Therefore, he gets the least amount of procedural protection. So he gets the notice, you're suspended. Parents get the notice, he's suspended. You have a right to be heard, but, right? As your son is saying, but.
He didn't tell me. He didn't tell me he got suspended, and I got a letter a week later.
There you go. Okay, only he got the notice.
Well, he was verbally told, and a week later when the mail comes, your
Yeah.
child's been suspended for this, and it wrote down the days he was suspended, and they had already happened.
Yeah. So it's the least notice opportunity to be heard. Now, 37H, and I know I told you to just briefly look at the statutes. We'll come back to some of these. They deal with the rules and regulations of the school. So somebody like, the student that brought the jump drive violated a rule, or Randall Roberts who violated some rule and now is being, disciplined. The school, along with the school committee, puts out these rules every year, the handbook, now we have the bullying regulations, etc. 37H and a half is a different animal. That's when a student, and we'll talk about these cases later on as well, a student who commits an act not in school, been arrested for some serious offense, school hears about it and says, "Whoa, Randall Roberts just got, indicted for manslaughter. We don't want him in school anymore." Okay, he didn't do it in school, but 37H and a half gives the school the right to suspend and ultimately expel. Now, because Randall Roberts faces a much more serious threat in terms of the schooling issue, he does have more rights with the 37H and a half. There's full hearings, there's hearings that go from the principal up to the superintendent and whatnot. So variable rights relative to due process depending on what the student is facing. So the student, for example, just to give you another example, suppose that Randall Roberts, after he gave the speech, another student was pissed at him, and Randall Roberts socked him in the face. And so he gets not only disciplinary action on behalf of the school suspends him, as well as a result of the school calling the police and so forth, the delinquency complaint issues against him. So now he's got not only school proceedings, but juvenile court proceedings. And the case, one of the mass cases that it gave you, Commonwealth v. Stone, the SJC said that's not a violation of double jeopardy. It's two different things. You can be, disciplined by the school for what you did, but you can also be, prosecuted by the district attorney's office by what you did, and that's not a double jeopardy violation. So pretty much we're at the end of the introductory part of the course. So what I'd like you guys to do for Thursday is to read the cases, Santosky versus Kramer, Isaac, Jeremy, custody of a minor, Sophie, and so forth, that group of cases. Many of those cases, pretty much all of them, set these legal standards that I will talk about. I'll pretty much summarize on Thursday the whole Cameron protection process, because that's what we're starting. The part of Chapter 119, which is called the Cameron Protection Statute of Massachusetts, where the state, parents patriae, right, protection of children, where the state is seeking to intervene into family relationship where parents are, for whatever reason, unable to parent at a specific point in time in their child's lives. And it could be a temporary situation, a permanent situation, or a very permanent situation where parental rights are ultimately terminated as well. So what I'll try to do on Thursday is, you guys having read the cases, I'll try and summarize sort of the statutory procedures and bring in the cases. So that way, what we're ultimately doing is we're summarizing what we would have done all this week on parent protection, okay? And we should be on target for next week with domestic violence and child sexual abuse and so forth. Anybody have questions?
So we're going to read all the care protection cases?
Yeah, read the cases that are for Thursday the 10th.
Okay.
Okay. I will point out specific parts of the statute that you should become familiar with. You don't have to become familiar with them right away, because we'll keep coming back to them. 119.1, the policy and purpose, 51A, which is the reporting, 24 is the temporary custody and how the case comes into court, 26 the hearing. So I'll point out some of the important sections of the statute, of the 119 statute.